GMGP, good morning, good people. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to wake up with us. You're sick. You're sick in the head. There's a lot of fantasy football shows out there, but I promise y'all, they not like us. Brock Bowers, you looked a little quicker than fast. What does that even mean? Redraft, dynasty, best ball, high stakes, we got you covered. And that's MVS and Justin Watson with some of the dopest tools designed to help you cancel out the noise and dominate your leagues. If there's a white wide receiver named Antoine, sign me up. Maybe it's cultural. I don't know. In season or off season, rain, sleet, hail, and snow, comma, semicolon, period, next sentence, to bring you the most actionable and entertaining content on YouTube. You don't go buy the dip on the Titanic.
Quarterback that you love, D-Bro. One of the best values in fantasy football.
Prop bets with my man Jay Rich.
Yes! Let's go!
So wipe the crust out of your eye, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake y'all asses up with Ray
and Jay
in the morning.
My God.
How good is he?
Let's
get it. GMGP. It is Friday, August 30th, 2024. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray and my man Jay. You see him on the screen. And we got a banger set for y'all this Friday. Who we got in the building right now? Alan Davis was popping with you. Gump, what's happening? Rico, Nick, Ryan, Jeff, Eric, Bandino, Leo, Scott, Rob Williams, Fly Meatwad in the building, Mark Perks, John Jimbo, Miss GQ also in the building. Jay Rich, what's popping with you, baby?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, it's a Friday show. We're finally back. First Friday without football. Now, we did have some great college football yesterday, and we'll get into that, but the NFL does start, and I'm very excited for that.
Last Friday without football. Yes,
last.
You said first Friday without football.
It's been a
lot of Fridays, but we got, man, it's, you know, you say that, man, we always talk about it, but we're watching, like, college started last night. We had football last night. College football is on. Football is back. Last Friday without football. NFL pops off next week. Full slate of college games this weekend. But, Jay, we did want to start off with news. You know, I'm not very familiar with the sport, but we talk all things on here. We talk all sports things, whether it's WNBA, NBA, primarily NFL, rookie draft stuff, college football. But there was some pretty sad news that just popped off about an hour ago, Jay. And I know you're more in tune with the sport than me. So just talk about it and let's pay our respects, man.
Yeah, you know, last night or sometime we're recently finding out in the last couple hours or so that NHL star Johnny Gaudreau has passed away. Him and his brother were hit on a bike at some point in New Jersey. They are in New Jersey for their sister's wedding. And unfortunately, you know, these things happen. And Johnny was in an unfortunate accident and died. It's, you know, sobering for me because me and him are actually the same age, Ray. So seeing, you know, he was born the day after, like, my best friend, same year as me. So that part is kind of crazy. But to see something like this for a player who, you know, I was telling you, probably a top 6 forward on Team USA, one of the best players in the NHL at one time. You know, he was in Calgary for years and years, was trying to take them to a cup. Truly a remarkable player in every facet, and just such an unfortunate incident. So it is really sad to see something like this come across the timeline for a player who's just, you know, in the offseason trying to enjoy his sister's wedding. These things unfortunately do happen. Very sad to see for Johnny Hockey, who was one of the best players, you know, of his time, and at one point was supposed to be the next big thing, and did do very well in his career, but very, very sad to see his passing. So prayers out to his family. Rest in peace to him. A really, really phenomenal player in the NHL.
Yeah, again, that's not a sport that I'm very in tune with, but I know you watch hockey a lot, and just to hear that for anybody but an athlete and people that we sort of cover and in this media space, it's tough. So rest in power to him and his family. Just a terrible situation. Just wanted to pay some respects to that today, to that news story. But we did have some college football last night, Jay, and we had one of the more talked about college teams, coaches, and players in the country on tap last night. I'm talking about the Colorado Buffaloes. They played the NDSU Bisons, North Dakota State. It's actually a good game. There were quite a few games on last night. We had North Carolina State in action. North Carolina played. There were quite a few college games, but all eyes seemed to be glued on Shedeur Sanders, Coach Prime, and Travis Hunter. And boy, did those young players show out, Jay. Last night, Shedeur Sanders, one of the top quarterback prospects in the 2025 NFL draft class, 26 completions, 34 attempts, 445 yards, 4 touchdowns and one of the craziest interceptions you will see. He also ran the ball 6 times for 17 yards. Shedeur Sanders, it was talked about on the show last night, Jay, that he was noticeably bigger. Shedeur put on some weight. You can definitely tell he had a much larger frame than last season, but the arm strength was there. I was talking to a couple of people in the scouting industry last night, and they said the zip on the ball is noticeably faster this year from Shedeur Sanders. Ball placement, his ability to deliver the passes. He signed a deal with Nike before this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, for me, man, I don't understand this mob groupthink vitriol level of hate against this player. For what, man? For being himself. I'm seeing all the other kids from NDSU talking to him after the game. He says I don't understand this hate. And then you really have people out there, and I'm calling every last analyst out. If they consider themselves any type of credible analyst out there when it comes to NFL draft, college football, and they got Shedeur Sanders ranked outside the top 10 quarterbacks in the class, not an NFL viable arm, like, they're fucking idiots. I'm sorry, it's Friday. There's no other way to say it. Don't buy into the bullshit narratives. He's an incredible prospect that can make every throw. He put that on wax last night. And I don't care if you're playing NDSU or playing Ohio State. Tight coverage is tight coverage. You've got to drop that ball in a bucket, and he's consistently shown that since his time at Jackson State. And he went out there, 445 yards, touch on the ball. He's got weapons. He's going to be one of the top prospects in the NFL draft come April.
Yeah, Ray, I thought that was really well said. And I think the biggest thing for me with Shedeur is you look to even that first touchdown to Travis Hunter, you got to have a level of zip on the ball to throw it far hash to sideline to get it there so Hunter can turn around and score that touchdown. And so you talk about the zip. The placement, of course, is always there with Shedeur. It's just the pocket presence is phenomenal, and his ability to move in and out of the pocket.
It's crazy.
You can say it's happy feet if you want, but you don't say that about Caleb Williams. So at the same time, you look at what he did against NDSU.
Get out of here, man.
People say
people don't know I don't care who it is. Stop. Just piss poor, clickbaity, recycled terms, use stuff, and you don't know what you're looking at. Not a clue. There's no happy feet. Get out of here, man. Whoever said that, get out of here, Jay. Ridiculous.
People are going to say that, though, right? Because he bails out of the pocket, and this is just how it is. But I think the biggest thing for me, Ray, when you look at this team from last year, the offensive line is better, but you can still see Shedeur be a little timid at the pocket collapsing around him at times. But again, he's just trying to make a play for his team. No disrespect to him. It was interesting to watch that game because I thought the NDSU was going to pull it out. But the second half, the defense really played much better. And Colorado is... Do you think they're ready, though, for the big moment?
Not you, but people don't project your projection of Shedeur Sanders based on Colorado's team. The defense is awful. They are awful.
Yeah, defense
NDSU could have won that game. They should just ran the ball every time with Cam Miller. They would have won. But don't project your projection of Shedeur Sanders based on the record of Colorado. Get the hell out of here. This was one of the worst teams in college football going into the season last year. You're not changing that in one season and with a couple of players. Now, there was somebody else on the field last night, Jay, and, I mean, if you just search this YouTube channel, there is a video up on Travis Hunter playing wide receiver. World GQ a couple of months ago said, yeah, I think if he commits to wide receiver, he's a top 3 wide receiver in this class, and what he did last night did nothing to dissuade me off of that stance. He was incredible. Travis Hunter, 7 for 132, 3 touchdowns, long of 41, made some incredible catches. This one, his final of 3. He's being, it looks like a rock bottom is about to be delivered on Travis Hunter, and somehow he catches this back shoulder fade, again, rock bottom by the cornerback, catches this, pulls this in for his 3rd touchdown, was incredible, Jay. I continue to say and maintain that I believe he's a better NFL wide receiver than he is NFL cornerback, but he's probably still a damn good cornerback. The most dynamic two-way player in college football. We haven't seen somebody like him. Again, I said it in the video. I think he's going to end up rivaling two-way stars, Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson. He's going to end up in that category. Chris Gamble as well. You throw him in there out of Ohio State, he's going to end up in that category when it's all said and done. Travis Hunter was electric. Travis Hunter was incredible. I don't know what else to say about this combination of Shedeur and Travis. Jimmy Horn also went off for 198 and 1.
Yeah, I mean, Trav was ridiculous, right? And I can only hope that he does commit to wide receiver because it does seem like again, you're probably better expertise than I am at analyzing this, but it does seem like he's a better wide receiver than he is a cornerback, and it's just what the speed he possesses. And I think, while it is NDSU, people have to realize this is like one of the best teams in, what is it, FCS is Division 2 or Division 1 AA.
Yeah,
make sure I get that correct.
I always call it 1AA still. I still call it D1AA.
They're like FCS champs every year. They're one of the best teams to FCS. So it's not like they're inferior completely, because they are one of the top teams in FCS. But that speed on that first touchdown, I'm like, holy, because it was a bad angle, sure, but he ate it up quick. And Ray, just makes me think, like, what is this guy going to run? Like, is he in the 4.3s? Because if he's running 4.3 and he's not playing wide receiver, like, honestly, Trav, what are you doing? Because you're a $30 million a year player. You're probably, at least Brandon Aiyuk in the NFL, because you look at what Brandon Aiyuk does in efficiency with the speed after the catch. Like, that's how Travis Hunter can win. Now, he's probably not going to go to San Francisco. He won't be that lucky, but that's kind of the way I could see him envisioning playing, and that's a more fruitful path, should he want to go that route, than than cornerback. But that is probably, that clip alone, you look at some of the other stuff he did, his body control, the catch he made, like you showed in the picture, but that clip is where I'm like, okay, there's a speed difference, but this is a different level of speed and acceleration that Travis Hunter is working with that you don't always see on tape. We saw Luther Burden score a nice touchdown yesterday, but he's not accelerating the way that Travis Hunter is accelerating through those hitch routes and turning the corner on a defense.
The crazy thing is this, Jay. They said he's not the fastest receiver on the team. They said that's Jimmy Horn Jr. is faster than Travis Hunter. Regardless of what he runs in the 40, incredible talent. I hope he commits to playing wide receiver. He should be a top 10 pick. And Shedeur Sanders, if he continues to do what he consistently does, which is throw the ball for a lot of yards, continue that pocket poison. I think one of the best things that you saw was he still faced a lot of pressure. I mean, you say the line was improved, but NDSU got heat on him. They got heat on him. They touched him up. Makes you a little nervous because their schedule is brutal. But if he can just show, if he could survive the season, Shedeur Sanders should be one of the top quarterbacks off of the board when we get to 2025. There was a good segue into Brandon Aiyuk, Jay, but we do have some more college football games that we want to touch on for this weekend. We'll just give you a couple of players that you should be watching this weekend.
Here's our players to watch this weekend.
All right, Jay, for the first set of players to watch for the weekend, we've got to start with the position that matters the most in fantasy football, quarterback. Everybody wants to know who the top quarterbacks are. So I got three for y'all to check out and watch this weekend. Number one, you've heard me talk about this player, potential dark horse QB1 candidate in the 2025 class. Big game this weekend, Las Vegas. The lights are bright. LSU's Garrett Nussmeier takes over for Jaden Daniels, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, number 2 overall pick. It's his time to shine at LSU. He's going to have some studs out there to do it, both at tight end, offensive line, Will Campbell, one of the best in the country. You got Mason Taylor out there at tight end, Kyren Lacey at wide receiver, and they've got a litany of running backs with Caleb Jackson, Josh Williams. Garrett Nussmeier is going to be set up for success with this new-look Brian Kelly offense. Got to take down USC in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, but this is a player, Jay, everybody should be watching. People want another LSU great quarterback to come out. Garrett Nussmeier played in that championship game, balled out. I do believe that he's going to be one of the players that we need to have on our radar this weekend. We also have to talk about the new quarterback at the University of Notre Dame. Riley Leonard transferred from Duke, goes to Notre Dame. They've got one of the top teams in the country. Defense is going to be crazy for the Fighting Irish this fall. So Riley Leonard, you get out there, you do some of the things that you put on wax before you got hurt last season at Duke, running the ball, being able to put the ball downfield. You got Jaden Greathouse, Chris Mitchell out there. They've got a very good tight end in Mitchell Evans, strong running game with Janarian Prince, and they also have Jeremiah Love. It's going to be a very good offense for Notre Dame. Riley Leonard's another one of those quarterbacks, Jay. If he plays well, he's going to put himself in the conversation to be a first-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. And the final player that we need to keep our eyes on, Debro. Is Debro in the chat? Michigan might have another one, Jay. We shall see. But you talk about a size, speed freak right out here from outside of my hometown, or where I live at right now, out of Saxe, Texas. You've got Alex Orji, the big 6'3", 240-pound athletic monster playing quarterback for the Wolverines this fall. His brother is a linebacker for the New Orleans Saints. Orji can run. He's got a cannon of an arm. He's black and he can run, Jason. You know, those accuracy concerns are going to be out there, right? That's the narrative. Alex Orji takes over for a Michigan team whose defense should be dope. They've got a strong running game in Donovan Edwards. They got a couple of other backs behind them, Kalen Mullings. Wide receiver core, we'll see how that shakes out. But Orji's going to have a big opportunity this fall to put his name on the radar to be one of the quarterbacks that people get excited about moving into 2026 and beyond. Jay?
Look at
what you got,
Ray.
baby?
So I have a couple questions. One, is Riley Leonard any good? I thought he sucked. Like, I didn't think he was a good quarterback.
I
know he can run.
Before he got hurt,
but I didn't know he could
Before
pass.
he got hurt, people said he would have been in the first round conversation, but prior to getting hurt. Snapped his ankle last year. It kind of ruined the season. He's got all the physical tools, man. Tools, talent, trait. Riley Leonard has it. And he's going to be playing on a primetime team on primetime TV. So everybody's going to see him. Yes, he's a good quarterback.
All right. Yeah, look at you. Deeper cut. I mean, I was expecting Nussmeier and no Carson Beck against Clemson, which is fine. Everyone knows Carson Beck, but it's a big game, right?
Carson Beck. Everyone's going to watch Clemson. So I'm giving you some names to keep on your radar that you might not be thinking about, like Riley Leonard, Alex Orji, and Garrett Nussmeier.
Would not have thought of Riley Leonard, so I'll say tap.
You did touch on a player. Let's pivot to the NFL. You touched on a player. It's over, Jay. Can we get some air horns? It's over. It's done.
He deserves all the sounders.
There he goes. Brandon Aiyuk. Deal done. Aiyuk staying in San Francisco. It's a beautiful picture, Brandon Aiyuk. Agrees to a deal with the 49ers, Jay. This comes after months and months and weeks and years of turmoil. And is he going to sign? Is he going to get traded? They try to trade him. I don't know. 4 years, $120 million for Brandon Aiyuk. Average value, $30 million per season. This puts him as the 5th highest paid receiver in the NFL, $30 million a year. Brandon Aiyuk got it done. Brock Purdy is happy. He's got his playmaker back. A lot of questions now, Jay. Trent Williams, what's this mean for Deebo Samuel? But let's start with Brandon Aiyuk. How you feeling about Aiyuk now? You happy? You moving him up? This is good for Purdy, obviously. Talk about this signing and the end of this saga for Brandon Aiyuk, who was 9th in the NFL in receiving yards per game last season and 2nd in yards per reception with almost 18 per catch, and 1st in NFL yards per target with almost 13, second team All-Pro for Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, I mean, Aiyuk is a phenomenal talent. It's great for Brock Purdy. The saga, thank God it's over. And hopefully this resolves whatever potential tension or issues that may have come with Aiyuk and his camp versus the 49ers. Because there was, the contract was leaked, but there was a lot of other stuff that was leaked too. Adam Schefter coming out with reports that this deal's been on the table since the beginning of August. But there's also reports, I believe it's Diana Rossini, who said that the 49ers tried to trade a 3rd-round pick for Cortland Sutton so they could send Aiyuk to Pittsburgh. So it's not just that people were waiting on Aiyuk to sign. It seems like, at least from my perspective, that San Fran was actively trying to trade him. And all reports were, if they were willing to get back in some capacity in another deal or the same deal, a wide receiver 1 to replace Brandon Aiyuk, that he would have been shipped off probably to Pittsburgh or somewhere else. And if you're Brandon Aiyuk, sure, you got your $30 million, you got your $76 million guaranteed, but how does that impact him? Does he care? Does he not care? Is he happy there? These are things that may not matter, but if this tension somehow continues, it could pose problems at some point. And so, do you have any concerns about this? He got his bag, but I think the way that all of this played out, hopefully there's no residual effects into the season.
Hey, if I called you a mother effer right now, you'd be a little upset, right? You'd feel a little hurt, right? Just a little bit, right? But then if I put like 10 grand in your account, would you forgive me? Would we be okay? If I was like, you know what, Jay, you're not a mother effer. I really love you, man. I'm sorry about that. Let's just move forward and here's 10,000 for your troubles. Would you feel a little better about that?
Yeah, but what if you try to trade me to, I don't know, another network and I got to go work there?
But you didn't. I brought you back and I paid you.
Yeah,
would you be okay?
You tried to send me to Denver.
It's okay.
I don't know if I like
He'll
that
be
too
fine.
much.
I think he's got 76 million reasons why he will go out there and actively participate and play hard, and I'm not concerned about any of that stuff. There should be no ill will, no angst. You know what this is, Jay? This is called business. This is life. It's business. You know how many times you go to your employer and say, hey, I got this offer from yada, yada, yada. What do y'all want to do? They're either going to pay you, keep you there, or they'll let you walk. There's no hard feelings. It's business. Business got handled. This is good for the 49ers. I think the bigger piece of news rolling off of this is what the F happens with Trent Williams, because that in my opinion, Jay,
More
is
important.
probably more problematic for Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey than Brandon Aiyuk ever could be. But it's good that he's back. He's a very talented player. It's good for Brock Purdy. It's good for the offense. But they've got to get Trent Williams signed. They've got to get him in the building. And from everything that I'm reading, Big Trent is chilling. Big Trent is chilling. Hey, I'll tell you the story when I used to work at 24 Hour Fitness in Houston, man. Trent Williams came in to hoop at 24 Hour Fitness. Bro, you would have thought
back then, though.
You would have thought he was KD in there, man. He put bringing the ball down court, spinning, yamming on folks. I'm like, damn, man, that's Trent Williams out here. But they got to get him in the building, Jay. They've got to get him in the building. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's the most important part of the offense. You could say it's Brock Purdy. You could say it's Christian McCaffrey. You could say it's Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk. When you look at the numbers, Trent Williams is by far the most important player on this team in a lot of ways. And it's crazy to think the Commanders just let him walk and didn't want to re-sign him.
What they traded for? What was that deal? Fifth?
I think it was a second rounder. I could
was
be
it a second round pick?
But I think
second
it was
and a fifth, something
rounder.
like that? Yeah, man.
Yeah, I don't think it was that bad, but Trent Williams is literally the best left tackle in football. So
it was bad, man.
It's pretty bad either way. But they do need to get him signed. And people are talking about in the chat, Chase is the only holdout left right now.
Hey, do I got a pull receipt? They say, bro, really meets that. I be outside. I live in big cities. I'm very outgoing. I meet folks, man.
You travel a lot, people. So you're always at the DFW airport. You never know when you might see old GQ.
Hey, I ride first class, Jay. All right, where are we going next? Where are we going?
Well, Ray, since we're talking DFW and Dallas, your boys, the Dallas Cowboys, signed the new running back. And we've been waiting on this for a while now, Ray. A while. Dallas can't go into the season with, Zeke Elliott and Rico Dowdle. Now, Ray, to be fair, Mike McCarthy was asked about Rico Dowdle playing special teams this year, and he said Rico Dowdle will not be playing as much special teams because of his projected workload during the season. I thought that was very interesting when we talk about Kyren Williams doing punt returns, Rico Dowdle not playing special teams.
Who did Dallas sign?
But they did sign Dalvin Cook. They did sign Dalvin Cook, Ray. And I gotta ask you, does it matter? What? You're bringing up FSU Dalvin Cook. Talk about a throwback. Look at that. You think we see FSU Dalvin Cook in Dallas? Is that what you're trying to say?
Jay, I mean, I don't know what you want me to say here. We needed a running back. They went out and signed when he was coming out of Florida State, this was one of the most talented running backs in the country, Jay. Coming out of Florida State, there's no reason why Cook should have been a second-round pick. This was one of the most talented backs during his time in college. Incredible. So, we'll see if he's got some juice left, Jay. I don't know what else you want me to say.
Do you think he's got any juice left? Any? Can he take carries from Zeke? Can he take carries from Dowdle?
Yeah,
do you pick him up in fantasy?
Yeah, I think he's got some reserve in the tank, but in spurts.
Best he's felt in years, apparently. Apparently. That's what he said.
Anytime it starts off with it's the best I've felt in years, that's probably a telltale sign that it's not going to end well. I'll just say this. CeeDee's in the building. Dak's in the building. I'm just going to spray and pray. I have no clue.
Do you have any updates on Dak? Are we cool? Is Dak cool? I haven't heard anything about Dak in a while.
I'm staying out of Dallas business. I've got people. I would say something, but Kyren DeKang is going to say something. I could call some folks to see what's going on. But, Jay, I'm staying out of business. I want to stay out of those negotiations. I don't know what's going on with Dak. I don't know what's going on with Dallas. I don't know. This is an offense. I want CeeDee Lamb. I want Jake Ferguson. I'll take some shots at the running backs, but there's not a lot that just inspires a lot of fantasy football confidence. Brandon Cooks is hurt. Sure, I'll take some darts on Jalen Tolbert, but give me Ferg, give me CeeDee, give me Dak, and I will just draw a Dallas running back name out of the hat and see what happens from there, Jay. But let's talk about Kyren Williams really quickly because everybody is freaked the hell out about Kyren Williams, Jay. I mean, the things that I'm continuing to see and read, he might get cut. He might be a post deadline casualty. He might not be there. I'm starting to get concerned that he's even going to play this season based on the reactions and the responses that Twitter is telling me. This dude is absolutely cooked, Jay. can't play. He's a punt returner. Blake Corum's taking all the work. Just talk to me about the narrative around Kyren Williams and how concerned are you, Jay?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm that concerned, only because I was already higher on Blake Corum than a lot of people were. You know, you look at where he is right now. He's behind Devon Achane, slightly ahead of Derrick Henry. Ray, there's a good would you rather. Would you rather Kyren Williams or Derrick Henry for the 2024 season? Because if you're asking me who's going to get the bulk of the work, probably Derrick Henry. Who could see a higher touchdown share? Probably Derrick Henry. Who has receiving upside? Obviously Kyren Williams. But is there a world where you prefer Derrick Henry or Kyren Williams? Who are you taking for the 2024 season? Got you on the first one.
I would probably take the king. I would probably take the king, Derrick Henry. 1 for 1. It would be Derrick Henry because they're around the same price. I'd probably, if I had just one dart, I would throw it at Derrick Henry.
All right. So you want to go further down because the next one, you like him too. So this is tough.
Give it to me. Who?
Isaiah Pacheco.
I'll take Pacheco over Kyren this season. I'm all in on Pacheco.
Okay, so can we talk about what happened with Pacheco yesterday?
Talk about what happened with him yesterday. What happened with him?
So there's, we're spreading the fake news, but apparently it's real news.
I'm not spreading shit. You talk about, I don't know what happened, so don't put me in this.
So there's talk. Well, one, they signed Samaje Perine, which is a little concerning for people who wanted Pacheco in the receiving game, right? Because Samaje Perine, we know he's a good receiver. The Jerick McKinnon role in the offense, we know how this all plays out. So there's concerns there, but there's also concerns, Ray, of the red zone, where Carson Steele could be a factor. I know you don't want to believe it. You don't want to buy it, but there continues to be steam about Carson Steele being that Swiss Army knife in the red zone. Is it going to happen? We don't know. But if it continues to pop up, we have to at least acknowledge Perine being a receiving factor for the Chiefs and Carson Steele potentially vulturing TDs from Isaiah Pacheco. Do you have any concerns about Pacheco, or do you think this is all just fake news?
He was number 7 in the league last year with 50 red zone touches at 8 on the goal line. And this was only playing 61% of the snaps last year. I'm not concerned about Samaje Perine. I'm not concerned about Carson Steele. I'm not concerned about any of that. I'm not. I don't believe that they are going to actively get inside the green zone, inside the 5, inside the 3, and say, let's pull the most reckless running back in the NFL off of the field for Carson Strong or Samaje Perine. No, sir.
Carson Steele.
Steele, Strong, it's the same damn thing. I don't want to hear about
your Carson Strong's type when you talked me into drafting him back in, 2020, and he was one of your top 5 quarterbacks.
Get the hell out of here. You were the one that was all over that Pickett and all over that Strong. Don't you put that on me. You could,
you think you're trying to convince the people that Jordan Richards, was touting a quarterback from Nevada. Like, I'm out here watching Nevada games. You think I heard that from anybody but you? Because they all know that I am not watching a non-P5 game, period. And I'm probably not watching a game that's not an SEC or a Big Ten game. Because those are the games I'm going to watch. So I'm not touting a quarterback from Nevada. Let's be honest.
Let's talk about Puka Nacua. There was some news about Puka Nacua, Jay Rich. Talk about Puka Nacua and your fear-mongering that you're trying to project on this player for 2024.
All right. So this is how you want to play this show. Okay, that's fine. Because a few weeks ago, you came on here and you said no concerns, no issues about old Puka Nacua. And I said, Ray, week to week doesn't sound that good. There's still multiple weeks. There's still plenty of time. But at the end of the day, you don't want to hear a player's week to week. And Greg Rosenthal was on a pod with Evan Silva yesterday, and he said, and I quote, he's fading Puka Nacua right now, and that's all he'll say. I don't know what that means. Doesn't mean anything to me. But when you have a player who is a top 12 pick, and we are unsure how healthy he is on August 30th, do you have any concerns right now when we have no updates, no news, no concrete evidence as to the status of one Puka Nacua, who is still a top 12 pick? Any concerns about him heading into the season? And is there any issues for you if you're drafting this weekend? Would you consider taking someone else over him?
Give me some names. Give me someone else names, because I think that Sean McVay said he's going to be ready to go week 1. So I don't know where Greg Rosenthal's information came from. I don't know what Greg Rosenthal's seen or has access or privy to that I don't. But Sean McVay said he is going to be ready for week 1.
But he said that weeks ago, though.
Pardon?
He said that a lot.
He was hurt. Here's the thing, man. Here's what we know. He was hurt, right? He was hurt. And like, that's probably something he's going to have to deal with all season, Jay. The reality is he going to be 1,000% as if he would not have been hurt? No. So, like, that's baked into your risk, right? When you draft him, you're understanding that he could re-injure himself or start off a little slow, but you understand that when you're drafting him. So, am I fading Puka Nacua? No. Are there other options depending on which direction I want to pull that team that I would go in? Sure. Give me some other names instead of Puka Nacua.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Sure. If you want to take Marv over Puka, I'm not.
Would you take Marv over Puka?
Sure. That's fine. Yeah.
Drake London.
They're right in the same category. They're right in the same range. So I could take Puka or I would take London.
Who would you take?
Drake London.
Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel's tough. He's got a high ADP.
Deebo's awesome. I probably would take Puka Nacua over Deebo Samuel. Yes. I'm still taking Puka over Deebo. Nico? Yeah, I'll take Puka over Nico. Yep.
Waddle.
Puka Nacua.
Cooper Kupp.
Puka Nacua. That range is truly the tier that he's in. It's Marv. It's Drake London. You want to take either of those guys over?
Though.
Pardon?
He's the top of that tier. He's the top of that tier.
Yeah, I'm not tripping off of a slow week 1 start for Puka Nacua or a 60% snap share because they're working him back into the yard. I'm not worried about that in week 1. I'm not playing. You know what I'm doing weeks 1 through 6, Jay? Weeks 1 through 8, weeks 1. I'm enjoying football. I'm enjoying the game. I'm not really stressing about fantasy, because your team is going to do what it's going to do. I'm enjoying the game, right? I'm not stressing out over him not getting me 29 points in week 1. So yes, I'm still in on Puka Nacua. Not worried about it. I don't have any information other than Sean McVay said he's going to be out there, so that's what I'm rocking with.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because there is a lot of steam right now as Cooper Kupp being the guy you want to draft instead of Puka. So when we talk about, in the back of the first, take a Drake London, try and get a Cooper Kupp, later on potentially in a draft if that can work for your strategy. And that's where the conversation comes from, right? It's not necessarily that we're fading Puka Nacua to oblivion to like DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Tank Dell range. But when you have a guy who's, back of the first, top second, you could probably afford to let him slip a bit further and take someone else who probably has a higher ceiling who, again, is healthy, right? That's the biggest thing at the end of the day. Another player, Ray, who is not healthy.
Hold on real quick. Adam says this, and I want to touch on this. Shout out to Adam Zaff, man. He said Nico and Waddle being slept on possibly from this segment. I'll just say this. I think Nico's really good. I do think people in general are, I don't want to say anyone's sleeping on Nico Collins. We all know. But I think people aren't as sold on Nico Collins as they are Stephon Diggs or their belief in Tank Dell. So I'm with you. I think Nico is a value. I'm very much in on him. If you ask me if you had to ask me, Jay, right now, I think Nico Collins leads that team in receiving in 2024. I'm not saying receptions, but in receiving yards, I would bet that would be Nico Collins. So I'm with you, but I still think the high end outcome for Puka Nacua is higher than Jalen Waddle. Like Waddle is capped by Tyreek, and significantly, because Tyreek does way more in that offense than Waddle's ever asked to do. Waddle, when he has some big boom games, they're going to be nice, but Tyreek is there, and that's an issue. So for me, I'm not sleeping on Nico. I'm not sleeping on Jalen Waddle. I just believe that their high-end outcome range is higher than that of Jalen Waddle because of Tyreek Hill. I mean, he's the best receiver. He's the best receiver in football, or at least the most dangerous receiver.
Best player in football, right? Number one.
There you go. He's a good football player. He's one of the best football players, Tyreek Hill. All right, Jay. Who else? So there's one final player that we just kind of wanted to touch on, and he was officially named the starter for his team, Jay. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is under the saddle, under the center's ass in Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson. How we feeling?
I feel the same as I would have if they named Justin Fields a starter. I'm not excited about either guy. Both have been awful. The offense looks horrible. They look like they could really use a receiver like Brandon Aiyuk right now, but they're not going to get him. It looks bad, right? Like, let's be honest. I was doing, we're going to talk about some ADP comparisons. And
Yes.
one of the players who got a massive hit in receiving, who we won't touch on that much because he dropped pretty significantly and he doesn't have a reception prop. But George Pickens' receiving yards, when I initially grabbed the numbers, probably a month or a month and a half ago, were 1,000 yards.
Okay.
Now they're at 900.
Really?
Imagine that. In the span of about a month, after watching Russell Wilson, Justin Fields play quarterback, his numbers have significantly dropped. And, of all the players who I track to, is like a lot of the top guys, because a lot of guys lower down the board don't have projections from the books. Pickens is by far the biggest dropper, right? He dropped significantly. And he was the guy that I was potentially in on at value if, we could see that 1,000-yard ceiling for him or a median projection of him around 1,000 yards. When he's at 900, he's in a much different range for fantasy football because that's when you get into the Deontay Johnson range.
On DK?
Yeah, this is on DK right now, yeah. All these numbers
Damn,
I'll
he's
talk about today are
900
from
yards
DK.
on DraftKings?
Yeah. He's 900 yards on DraftKings. Yeah.
He's
that's
still
what I mean.
10-10. He's still 10-10 on he's still 10-10 on underdog. So I mean, depending on how you where are you going with this? Where are you going with this? That
it's not looking good for the Steelers. I talked about this with on Debro's show. Even the running backs, Ray, like if I was a defense, why wouldn't you just ask Pittsburgh, like stack the box, 8 in the box every single play, right? 3-4 with the safety. Boom. Cover all the gaps. Make sure they can't run. Who's gonna stop you and force you to try? It's just George Pickens, and I think you can afford George Pickens to make a couple big plays a game. It's just not looking good. He's the starter there.
How would
Jacoby's
you feel about this line, Jay? I'm putting it on the screen right now. Here it is. George Pickens for the 2024 season. Talk to me, chat. This is on Underdog right now. This is a season-long projection for George Pickens. 1,010.5 yards, right? Is that how you say that? 1,010.5. He's got to get 1,011 yards, Jay. If I had to put fire to ass right now, George Pickens, higher or lower on this season's total yards? 1,011. Higher or lower?
I'm taking the lower. I really am.
Okay, so
I'm
if you're okay, keep that in mind. Let's play this game. If you're taking the lower on that, tell me why on earth, Jay, if you don't think he's even going to hit 1,000 yards right now, where is old George Pickens going in Underdog? Let's see. George Pickens. I want to see where he's currently coming off the board at, Jay. For whatever reason, it's not working right now. But
you want his ADP? He's 48.7.
Yeah, his ADP. Yeah, where's he at?
48.7. He's right in the range of, let me find it again. He's right in the range of Zay Flowers, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin. So you look at, like, here's a good example, right? George Pickens has a 900-yard projection on DraftKings, 5 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin, 925, 4.5 touchdowns. Amari Cooper, 950, 5.5 touchdowns. T. Higgins, right? 875, 6 touchdowns. So it's just like the problem for Pickens isn't that he can't be good. It's that the touchdown ceiling is significantly lower than other players around him. And I think all those players in that range, have a much higher yardage ceiling. Even T. Higgins, who is somewhat capped by Jamar Chase, is made up for the fact that Joe Burrow can throw for 4,500 yards in a season. When you have a player like Russell Wilson, who coming into this season was projected right around 2,700, 2,800 yards, which is like the second lowest in the NFL. Now, part of that is driven by the fact that he's probably not going to play the whole year, but when you're touting a player like Pickens to get 1,000, like you're asking him to get almost a 40% yardage share, which he can do, but I think it's going to be very difficult in this offense where we already know that wide receivers struggle in the offense, and we've seen that in Arthur Smith's offenses year over year. And I think this year in particular, it looks even worse to some extent than we've seen Arthur Smith offenses in the past. So that's why I'm a little bit worried about Pickens. I'm a little bit worried about Amari Cooper too and Deshaun Watson. But, you look at the outlook for McLaurin, how good it looks. He's a 2, but he's a great 2 in a great offense. And then as well, if you like Zay Flowers looks better than Pickens as well, even playing in that Baltimore offense.
It's the chat. It's interesting the back and forth between the over under that Pickens line. And yeah, coming off the board, wide receiver 30 in between Amari Cooper and Terry McLaurin. So we've got some more ADP versus ADV conversations. We got some more players. Marvin Harrison, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. We're going to talk a little Michael Pittman, Malik Nabers. We're going to do that right after the break. Y'all know what y'all got to do. It's Friday, baby. It's Freaky Friday. Run the likes up. We'll be right back. Let's go.
All right, Ray. So we kind of got into it already a little bit, but there were some players I wanted to bring to your attention who are values are looking good right now when you compare book lines versus, these ADPs on Underdog. And let's start with this first group of players, right? We already talked about Puka Nacua. Are we worried about him right now? And his projection, 85.5 receptions, 1,125 yards, only 5.5 touchdowns, which is really what hurts Puka's ceiling in terms of median projection. But then behind him, in terms of the overall ranks on the books right now, Mike Evans is right behind him, and he has a 27.2 ADP, which is crazy. And I talked about this last year for people who went and listened to that podcast. I said Mike Evans is a value on the books. 68.5 receptions, which doesn't hurt him as bad in half PPR, but these results also don't change when you switch it to full PPR. 1050 in terms of yards, and then 8 touchdowns projected for Mike Evans, Ray. And this is where, when you talk about these receivers and picking between them, it becomes more difficult. Is what do you want to lean on? Because then you can get into Devontae Adams, who's projected for 4 points less, but 84.5 receptions, 1025 in terms of yards, but only 6.5 touchdowns. There are two guys right now that are, second round or outside the second round, almost in the case of Evans, but they should be drafted in the range of Puka Nacua, Drake London, Marvin Harrison Jr., who are at the top or near the top of the second round. And those guys, to me right now, if you're drafting, are tremendous values because they are not drafted as high as some of these other guys. And when you look at the projections, if you want to lean on Evans because of the touchdown ceiling, I really like that based off where his ADP is. And then at the same time, Ray, here's a question for you. Would you rather draft Devontae Adams, half a round to a round later, or pay up for Drake London? We know what Adams can do if the ceiling hits. Now it's with Gardner Minshew this year, and it's not Kirk Cousins and Drake London, but their outcomes are nearly identical. London, 81.5 receptions, same yardage, same touchdown projection as Devontae Adams. Who are you taking in this ADP battle? Because you do get a bit of a value on Adams, but a lot of people are touting the ceiling that Drake London could have in 2024.
So I just let's do this, and I just want everybody to see this. And what kind of emotions does this elicit when you see stuff like this? And knowing that sportsbooks don't have the secret sauce, Jay, they don't have all the answers, right? But they got some sophisticated models, and they're not in the business of losing money. So here goes Mike Evans, Jay. We're gonna cover ourselves up. There's Mike Evans right there on the screen. Let's get Devontae Adams on the screen, right? At the same time, I want Devontae Adams up here. There goes Mike Evans, Jay. There's Devontae Adams. And then we're going to talk about, you said Drake London?
Yeah, Mr. London.
All right, let's put Drake London up. Let's put Drake London up, and let's look at all three of these things and talk through this real quick, Jay. Let's talk through this. There's 3 different lines up here. You got Devontae Adams, Drake London, and Mike Evans. Mike Evans touchdowns, 9.5. Devontae Adams, 6.5. Drake London, 6. Mike Evans, 1,125.5 yards. Devontae Adams, 1,100. Drake London, 1,025. Receptions, Evans, 68. Devontae Adams, 83. Drake London, 81. And you did talk about the wide gap. This ADP gap is from right to left.
Around.
Drake London, wide receiver 15. ADP 15, wide receiver 10. Devontae Adams, wide receiver 16, ADP 24, according to Underdog. And Mike Evans, the cheapest, ADP 27, wide receiver 19. Just based off of the projections that sportsbooks are placing on these players. Mike Evans TDs, Mike Evans yards. I mean, he leads the way from fantasy production right here. He's the cheapest. I mean, when you see this, Jay, how do you use this to make, fantasy decisions? We talk through sports betting. We use a lot of sports betting stuff to kind of pair with fantasy football. And I always find this stuff fascinating, the hopium and the projection that we have versus what some realistic ranges of outcomes that some very sophisticated models are saying these players should or should not hit based on their availability in the season. But talk about these lines, dude, and our expectations for these players.
Yeah, I mean, you look at London, and we all love London. It's not a slight at London at all, but when you compare him to players who are cheaper than him, who are better values, it's hard to look at London and say, yeah, I need to get a high exposure on that guy because that upside is already baked into the cost, right? And you can easily get a player like Mike Evans or Davante Adams, who, as you showed on the screen, have a very similar range of outcomes and potentially even a higher ceiling depending on what you value. For me, when I'm looking at fantasy football, especially in half PPR, I do kind of value that touchdown ceiling a little bit. It's why when early on questions were asked about Puka Nacua versus Garrett Wilson right next to each other in ADP, one player has an 8 touchdown projection, one has a 6 touchdown projection. And that's just based off median outcome. And when you talk about Evans and Adams, we know they're 15 touchdown ceiling guys. We can't say that about Drake London. Now, Drake London does potentially have a 50. What's up?
Go ahead. Keep going. Sorry,
I was going to say London potentially does have a 1,500-yard ceiling in terms of yardage, but Evans can do that as well. I think the biggest thing here for people to understand is that you can use these lines to find and exploit values in a market, even like Underdog, that is super sharp, and fantasy analysts know what they're talking about. But when you compare it to something like this, don't be surprised when Mike Evans is like a top 8 receiver yet again, because he was last year. Right? And right now, based off the books, he's a top 10 receiver. Adams is a top 10 receiver. And if they had better quarterback play or quarterbacks that you liked, like Kirk Cousins, they would already be in the top 10. But because they don't, their values right now, and they're 2 guys that I was looking at. And then the other dude, if you want to get into Marv, because Marv is even higher.
Hold on, just slow down. Hold on. Because Carl asked a question. Gotta get to the chat, man. Said, isn't London just way more valuable because of his age? We're talking dynasty, right? And I think that's a very important distinction to make. Most of us we're talking seasonal leagues. We're talking about rolling into this fantasy football season. And I do think that sometimes that dynasty long-term lens gets mixed into the season's sort of outcome range that you're looking for. And we're talking specifically about 2024 fantasy football, not 5 years from now, not 7 years. Who do you want on your? I'm talking about for this year. Score. I don't give a shit about 2025 right now. Score me points in 2024. Right now, dynasty or redraft, the ADP from millions of drafters are saying you take Drake London a round and a half ahead of Mike Evans. And what Jay Rich is saying is, I mean, the sportsbooks are telling you that's probably a suboptimal bet. Every indicator out there is probably telling you that it's probably a little more hopium that London does become Justin Jefferson this year. And I love me some Drake London. He should smash. You just have to weigh that unknown versus Mike Evans or Davante Adams, the guaranteed locked-in 25+% target share receiver in an offense where you kind of know that they're just going to get the ball. It's just interesting to look at this stuff, and I think it's very important to distinguish, are you talking dynasty value or are you talking scoring points for my fantasy league in 24?
Yeah, and I do want to bring up one of Rhonda's comments because she said, hard to go against Evans, but didn't he lose his OC and Godwin should be healthy? That's absolutely true, Rhonda. But I think the thing that you forget is that was also true last season. Last season, he lost his OC and he brought in a new OC, and it was Dave Canales. And Dave Canales was awesome, and we love Dave Canales. And, you and I are very excited about what he can do with Bryce Young. But last year was the same situation. Mike Evans was devalued because he lost his OC and they weren't sure, is Baker going to be good? And what do you know? Mike Evans balled out. This year, they did lose their OC, and I love Dave Canales, but there is much less concern, in my opinion, about Baker Mayfield being the guy, and that should give you more confidence to feel okay about Mike Evans. I do like Godwin. He's going back to the slot. He should be very good this season playing in the slot. That's why Jalen McMillan is going to win the outside wide receiver 2 spot. But Evans, for everything that I dislike him for, because I am a Marshawn Lattimore guy, he should be very good for fantasy football yet again. And the other guy in this group that I did want to talk about is Marvin Harrison Jr. because he is drafted ahead of all those guys. 82.5 reception projection, 10-25 in terms of yards, 6 touchdowns, Ray. I still like Marv, and I think of all these guys, he is up there with Evans and Adams in terms of touchdown ceiling. it is a bit of a projection. But when you talk about these lines, especially, the biggest thing and the reason why I like them is that they're based in fact, and more importantly, they give you an idea of what you should expect, not what's going to happen. When you have a player who is projected for 1,350 yards or 1,375, like Tyreek Hill is at, and we're all like, oh, he can get past that easily. But it shows you how high of a floor people expect of Tyreek Hill pretty much no matter what. You see 1075 for Marvin Harrison Jr., so underdog a little bit higher than all the sports books. So if you're taking those overs on UD, make sure you're careful because they are a little bit higher than other places. But when you look at these types of numbers, you say, can he beat it? Sure.
Do we know let me tell you what I look at this.
Who knows?
When I look at these numbers, all I think is, man, if in Ronda Commander, I'll just tell you this, those sports books, all of the OC changes and health, all of that stuff is baked in. All of that is taken into consideration when they set these lines. So this is all that new information is rolling. When I see 6.5 touchdowns and 1,075 yards, I'm thinking, how on earth can you draft this player number 12 overall? That's what I think, Jay. That's literally what I'm thinking is, okay, in a best case scenario outcome, like, are we really, 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 truly projecting a rookie as talented as he is? I just think that putting 12 overall expectations on a rookie, Jay, is just not a good bet, period. I don't care who the rookie is, has nothing to do with the talent level that I think they possess, their long-term dynasty value, what they're going to become. But to put that on that player and draft that player that high out the gate, you're really boxing yourself into one outcome, Jay. One. And that is nuclear explosive level production. And if it doesn't happen, you've royally screwed up because you've used your top pick on a player that you could have gotten similar production from. Like, I guarantee you, Deontay Johnson's lines look very close to this. I bet, without even pulling them up, I bet you they look close to it.
They ain't, though.
Hey, well, you know what I mean.
So I will give you the context, right? When you talk about 1,025 yards, there's not a lot of players who are that high. In terms of touchdowns, at 6.5 or 6, there's probably about 13, 14 guys in the NFL that have a projection that high, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this is where you look at medians. It's not as bad as it seems, but yeah, 1025, I believe, is in the top 10 or close to the top 10.
Crazy.
I mean, Chris Olave is right around that range as well. But yeah, Marv, DK Metcalf's at 1,000. Like, there's only like 16 guys who have a projection of 1,000 yards or higher right now. Now, it doesn't include Brandon Aiyuk because his numbers aren't up. But outside of that, like, it's not like all these guys are getting 1,000 yards. That's not how the NFL works. They can, but when you're projecting and projecting outcomes in particular, getting over that 6.5, 7 touchdown median is very hard. And it's why I personally believe you should still be all in on a Garrett Wilson, who people don't like, but he has a very high touchdown ceiling. Same with Mike Evans, same with Justin Jefferson, whether it's with Sam Darnold or not, all these things are kind of baked in. These are some guys I've been looking at, but last, Ray, we do have to talk about Malik Nabers before we get out of here, because in the same breath, right, everyone wants to tout Malik Nabers, 24.3 ADP, wide receiver 17. It's not looking good for Daniel Jones. He has the lowest yardage projection of all starting quarterbacks on DraftKings Sportsbook for both yards and touchdowns. So it's not just the yards, it is the touchdowns as well. Last time we talked, his projection was at 850 yards. It's now at 900, 71.5 receptions, 5.5 touchdowns. That puts him basically right in line with Zay Flowers and a little bit below Stephon Diggs right now, but drafted significantly higher. In terms of these rankings, he's 6 spots below his ADP. In terms of wide receiver ranks, there is Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins, DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp. Like, all these guys are ahead of him. Now, the main guys who are actually behind him in ADP, Diggs, Cooper, Moore, I think can easily outproduce him in 2024.
So you said Zay Flowers. I just want to pull up Zay and Malik. Let's pull up Zay and Malik. Here goes Malik right here. We'll put Zay right there. Put Malik over me. You're Zay Flowers, Jay.
Woo!
Malik, 5.5 TDs. Zay, 6.5. 925 for Zay. 940 for Malik. And then the receptions. Essentially, Malik Nabers is projected to outproduce Zay Flowers, period. Like, just straight up, out the gate.
How?
Where are they going?
How?
Underdog
The
ranking wise, I know
touchdowns.
Nabers is higher than Flowers, right?
Well, but the touchdowns though, you have a 6.5 and
A
a
five
five
and
and
a
a half.
half.
That's a
One
big
TD,
difference.
one TD difference.
Yeah, that's a big difference in projections. But yeah, Malik Nabers goes a round and a half before Zay Flowers. And no one wants Zay Flowers because he has this low ceiling, right? Playing in the Baltimore offense. But the same low
Wide
ceiling
receiver
exists for
27.
Malik Nabers.
Zay 27, Nabers 16. Same damn sharp billions of dollars going into betting every single day. They're saying that they are more likely than not to finish around the if they play the same amount of snap, their customary, their allotted snaps and time. Malik Nabers is going to outproduce Zay Flowers. You can get Zay Flowers 11 wide receivers later.
Yeah. And the biggest thing for me really is Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs goes around behind Malik Nabers, and he plays in arguably, not the best offense in football, but could be the highest upside offense in all of football, period. And Nabers probably plays in the worst outside of the Patriots. Like, it's one of those things that's very interesting to talk about the projection versus what's going to happen. And when you look at how bad things look for the Giants, it's very, very concerning.
Yeah, I'll just say this. I had this conversation with one of our patrons, Josh McAtee. Shout out to Josh, because we were having a debate about drafting Malik Nabers. We're doing an FFPC main event team. We're co-managing a main event team, and we're talking about drafting Malik Nabers and the risk versus the reward for a player like that. And basically, long story short, it's if we believe in this talent of this player and that he's going to receive that 30% target share, and I know we've had this debate, Jay, he's going to get, let's just be conservative, 150 targets on the season. Yeah. Like the hope, the high-end range outcome, like that's a player that you bet on doing it, right? Like if I told you right now Gabe Davis was going to get 150 targets, like I think people would like that, but I don't know how confident people would be like he would turn that into elite production. People would still question that. If I told you out the gate, Malik is getting 150, even if it's from Daniel Jones, the reason you draft him is not really for the floor, because shit can hit the fan with Daniel Jones. You're drafting him to where if Jones only throws the ball to Malik Nabers every time, which we know that's not going to happen, but you get the point, he's got the type of potential to take whatever Gabe Davis or Deontay Johnson can do with those targets and turn them into more, because he's just a better player. He's more explosive, he's faster, he's bigger, he's stronger, all that other stuff. That's why you're shooting for max upside when you take him, knowing good and damn well that it could be 911 yards at the end of the season, and you're like, crap, I blasted that third-round pick on a player that I could have gotten similar production from in round 8. It's just kind of the bet you make, right?
That's it, right? He's literally almost a second rounder right now, which is the concerning part for a player who, even with that ceiling, it's a different type of ceiling, right? When you're talking about a player like Nabers, because the perceived floor is low and the ceiling is seemingly capped because of the quarterback play, the offense, etc. I'm with you in a neutral scope, though. If you give, I think it's an interesting conversation, because if you told me you could give Gabe Davis and Malik Nabers the same amount of targets in their offenses, I may actually take Gabe Davis.
Listen, Joe, we're on the same page, Joe. She said, I am wrong, but target quality matters, methinks. It does matter. It does. It's this push-pull, right? I think both things can be true, Jay. I think you can bank on the opportunity and just, if you're on the side that I'm betting on the opportunity and I'm betting on the opportunity and the talent of the player, that is perfectly fine. Because if you told me right now he's getting 150 plus, I love that, right? If you want to lean on the fact that, okay, yeah, he's going to get 150, but the quality is going to be poor, I'm not as high on him. I would rather take Mike Evans a round and a half later. I would rather take Zay Flowers, 2 rounds later. I think you're also right. I think both things can be true. Anybody that says the target quality doesn't matter, you're a damn lie. And anybody that says the opportunity doesn't matter, you're also lying, because you don't want to bet on if I told you it's going to get 100 targets and that's it, but he can be real efficient, you're still a little bit. You better be real efficient with those 100.
Yeah.
So both things
Brandon
can be
Aiyuk.
true. But I think that's what makes an interesting market for these young players who are being drafted higher than they ever were before. Even Jamar Chase in his rookie season, he was going in the 5th round of main event high-stake leagues, not the 3rd round, not the 2nd round. Jamar was going in round 5. Last year, going into the season, Jay, Breece Hall was being drafted in the 4th round. You know what I'm saying? Going into that. So you're paying, like you're truly paying for
all-time
like
highs.
Max upside. Like you're paying for Puka Nacua. And that is a hard sell for me to buy into. But it's interesting. And next week's going to be fun because we're going to get some projections, some weekly projections. Lamar Jackson projected to throw for 182 yards. This player projected for 52. And we're going to talk about him every single week and watch how people react. Ooh, that line is low. It's over.
Every
over
time,
52
right?
and a half. Over
time.
City. And then you get to Sunday, 3 for 43 and 1. And you're like, shit, how did they know? Damn Sportsbooks, how do they continue to know? But we're going to watch this because I do think that paying attention to the betting market and the money flowing in, the billions of dollars flowing in on these sports, there's information that can be parsed from that. How you use it, how much of it you want to use, that's up to you. But we will talk about this all damn season long. We are excited for the upcoming NFL season. Labor Day this weekend. So we got a long 3-day weekend. Old GQ's birthday is on Tuesday. No show on Monday. We are not. No wake up on Monday. Y'all know we take our vacations around here, and I highly encourage you to take time, prioritize your mental health. But we will be back Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wake y'all ass up with Ray and Jay. We'll be previewing the Chiefs and the Ravens, talking some college football, Friday stuff. We're going to have rankings, Jay. Fridays, we are going to have our top 24 running backs and wide receivers, top 12 quarterbacks and tight ends every single Friday for the upcoming fantasy week. If you haven't done so, hit the music, Jay. Hit the thumbs up button, like the content, subscribe to the channel, stay locked into every single thing that we do over here. Subscribe to the podcast radio feed. Shout out to all the dope content creators. And I just want to say goodbye to everybody in the chat. Who's in here? Historical Anomalies. What's up? Labor Day Free. Which game should I watch? Joe, I know Joe, your ass woke up late, so you missed the beginning. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. You want to watch LSU USC. You got to tap in. Who else did I talk about? Riley Leonard, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M should be a really good game. You got Georgia, Clemson. Jay Rich talked about that. You got to watch the top running back in the country, Ollie Gordon, eviscerate some FCS opponent. And then Will Howard and the new look Ohio State Buckeyes take the field. Got to see that Quinshon Judkins, Trevion Henderson. We got to see that Will Howard. He's gonna be in the conversation for guarantee you. I guarantee you. I had to talk with Damian Parson last night. Shout out to DP from Draft Network, man. I talked to Dame. When we get to the process, Jay, people are going to comp him to Josh Allen. I'm just telling you right now. He's big, white, with a big arm.
He can
move. He's 6'5", 235. He's got a cannon, and he can run. I'm not saying he's Josh Allen, but people are going to comp Will Howard to him. I guarantee you he'll be in the Heisman Trophy conversation as long as he stays healthy. So there's just watch college football, Joe. Wake y'all ass up on Monday. We'll be back not this Monday, but Wednesday. We're off on Monday, right, Jay? We're out. You have anything to say, Jay?
No. Do you want to watch Dylan Raiola? People are asking about Dylan Raiola.
Yeah.
Nebraska's QB.
No, hey, they got to play Colorado in a week. Shedeur and them, they better get that O-line ready. Nebraska's coming. Yeah, Nebraska, Dylan Raiola. Who else we got? Alex Orji. You want to watch Orji from Michigan?
That was your guy.
When's the new merch dropping to buy? Hopefully the merch is up next week. I got a lot of merch on the chair. The merch should be up next week. Y'all have a great weekend. We love y'all. Thank y'all for the launch, the new logo, the new website, new show, same gas, and we got more stuff coming next week. Y'all have a good one. We out of this thing. Peace.